Rink Report, brought to you by PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone. The Capitals earned this right to have home ice not just for this round, but for the next two by being regular season Eastern Conference champions. Tonight, whether it be in the first 10 minutes, the first 60 minutes, the first two games of this series, they will try to use that to good effect and try and get a lead in this best of seven.
I think it's absolutely critical that they feed off the energy at Capital One Arena. And look, John, I feel like there's probably a handful, and you travel with the team, of buildings that are so loud that it actually influences the game. I feel like Bell Center in Montreal is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's big. It's loud. They sing like it's a soccer match. And here in Washington, it can also be really hard on opponents, and the energy that the crowd gives to the Capitals, I mean, it's palpable. I'm in that corner a lot, and you can feel the momentum swings, and you can see the guys building off that energy. And in my opinion, it is absolutely critical that the Capitals go to Montreal with a 2-0 lead, because Bell Center is just as loud, if not louder, and has a bigger impact on the Canadiens.
We're going to have Spencer Carberry and his press conference that concluded just a short time ago here at MedStar Capitals Iceplex. Him talking about this game tonight and what he expects to see. But one of the things you're going to hear about, and I think this is paramount, we can talk about forecheck, we can talk about physicality, but the comparison about where the Caps were this time last year, that's where Montreal is now.
Right. And
Spencer will be talking here about where they were. They came in feeling they could win the series, and little by little, and really in that game one where the Rangers, even though there was some early success for the Caps, the Rangers just took it from them.
Right.
So by the time you got to getting on the plane after game two to come home for game three, a lot of that belief had been removed because the Rangers took it from them. Now, this year, that's what the Capitals need to do. They've got to take it from Montreal.
Absolutely.
The Habs are the team that had to win just to get in.
Right.
The Habs are coming in thinking, hey, why not us? You got to make them believe, no, it's not going to be you.
It feels like the Habs are playing with house money, and I kind of hate that cliche, but it really is true. This team is young, in fact, the youngest to ever make the playoffs in terms of average age, so they don't have expectations. You know who does have expectations? Washington has expectations because, look, they just came off a stretch where Alex Ovechkin broke this big record. The whole sports world is focused on the Capitals. They won the division. They won the Eastern Conference. They are they are the team that feels like they have to go out there and they've got to do something with this season. They have to finish the season off the right way. They need to accomplish something here in this postseason. Montreal, they're like, guys, can you believe we're here? This is amazing. And they're coming in hot, and I feel like they're young and they're fast, and they are just naive enough to maybe not be scared of the moment because, again, they're playing with house money. And so those are some of the things, the intangibles that concern me. 7-1-2 in their last 10 games. Since the Four Nations break, that Suzuki line has been the best line, the most productive line in hockey. That Dvorak line, also very, very good. Sam Montembeault, he's also stepped up in these last 15, 20 games. So I totally agree with what Carberry's saying. They have to go out there and take game one, but not just take it by winning the game. They got to take that belief from the Canadiens. So when they're getting ready on the day between game one and game two, they're like, oh, yeah, I guess the ride's over, boys.
Yeah, that's what you're hoping for if you're Washington. And on Sam Montembeault, who will be the starting goaltender tonight for the Habs. He is in pretty much the same place Charlie Lindgren was last year. Yes, played excellent down the stretch. There's no question that he is playing some of his best hockey of the season right now.
Yeah.
He also had to play in every game. And that is certainly, as fatigue start to set in, he had to just will them into this position. The Caps take advantage of that.
John didn't get a vacation during the Four Nations. He didn't play, but he was facing pucks. He was on the road. He was in game mode. So you hope that the wear and tear of all of that is going to catch up with him here in game one.
Here now, Spencer Carberry from just a short time ago here at MedStar Capitals Iceplex, meeting the media and talking about tonight's game one.
Spencer, you sound like you'll be the first goalie off the ice. Anything you want to say?
7 o'clock. Is that puck drop?
Yeah.
What do they do warm up at? 5:20? 5:8?
6:30.
Or sorry, yeah, 6:30. You find out then?
You talked about this a little on Saturday, but I'm curious about two lines in particular for Montreal. the Suzuki line and the Dvorak line. Can you kind of break those two down for me? Like what makes them work? Dangerous.
Suzuki's line, 3 elite players. I think a good combination of the centerman being, he's come into his own as a player in the National Hockey League, extremely intelligent, plays at both ends of the rink, can see plays developing as a centerman, so he's in good spots. He can facilitate from the middle of the ice, and then you've got a elite shooter, just an elite offensive player in Cole Caulfield, and then Slavkovsky, who's a young player that now has grown into understanding. I heard Marty talking about him of understanding how to use his size, power, physicality to go along with the hands, the shots. So you got 3. It's a good combination to make that line as good as they've been this year. And then interesting stat too I read on them. They've played together. I'm gonna do some work for you here.
All right, yeah, I love this.
They've played together. There's 3 lines in the NHL that have played, I think, over 700 minutes together as a line in the season, and that's one of them. The other 2 are, I think it's the Scheifele line in Winnipeg and actually Stromer's brother in Anaheim. But so why I say that is when you play that long as a trio, you start to develop, and they've played years past together. It's nothing you don't know, but a lot of chemistry there. They know where each other are, and that's what I saw going back through our film. They make a ton of plays to one another in all 3 zones that end up right on the tape. The other line that you mentioned, I think, that's their line, similar to our line that centered by Nick Dowd. Hard, physical, in good spots, reliable, smart, veteran presence. So that's what I see with those guys.
Raise your hand. Try one real quick, but first, has Logan been cleared back lately, or you're not going to say that either?
That would be a Serbs question. I don't even know if. Yeah, that's a Serbs question.
And then just Lane Hudson, how much of your game playing is centered around when you're talking about this team, centered on him, and what makes it unique, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, we're very focused on the things that we need to do as a group. Now, he's a player that we have to be aware of, and the season that he's had and the player that he's become in a short period of time, he's best comparison, and he's going to get to this level. Obviously, the player that I'm about to say has accomplished a lot more in his career to this point, but Lane is on that trajectory is Quinn Hughes. That's the type of impact that he can have on a game 5-on-5 and on the power play. His lateral mobility, his poise with the puck, his vision, deception, patience, all those things of those one-in-a-kind defensemen that there's a handful of them in the league, and he's one of them, and you have to pre-scout and you have to be aware of him when you're on the ice, and there's a lot of ways that he can beat you, and there's some ways or there's specific things that we'll try to do to neutralize that. We know you can't keep the puck out of his hands, and he's going to make some plays out there. We just got to do our best to limit the amount that he's making, and when he does get the puck, are we in good positions to help and all the different stuff that we need to do.
Since we saw Alexei Protas skate out there for 15 minutes or so, I know this is probably something Jason Service as well, you had a conversation.
Yep.
How optimistic are you about it getting involved in the series, whether it's game 2 or game 3 at some point if it's conditioning is there?
Yeah, I think he absolutely, I would expect him to play, and we'll just see when that is. Might be tonight, might be game 2, we'll see.
On the question of Alexei Protas, or really the rest of the lineup, you and I tackled this in the podcast on Caps this morning already, but we're not going to get a lot of answers out of Spence Carberry. So you and me and the rest of the media corps and the fans, we will see what we see as it happens. Alexei Protas did skate a little bit this morning. He was pretty ginger. I don't think we're going to see him. It's certainly not tonight, I don't think. The hope would be that sometime in the series, as he alluded to, but you look at that, Logan Thompson was the first one off today. Yep. It looks like Logan would be starting. We didn't get a confirmation on that either. But as far as just being at practice and what we saw today, No Martin Feravari, no Alexei Protas, and I think the rest of it's pretty much in play.
Yeah, I would say Feravari, I have not laid eyes on him for about a week. So I'm assuming that he is out. I would not count on seeing him anytime soon. Protas, this is 2 days in a row. He's been on the ice.
It's good news.
It's
Absolutely
good news. He's
good
starting
news.
to move in the right direction. That said, the type of injury that he has is not something that you can just, tape it up and say, do the best you can. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's a process that he's got to follow.
Could be in the series.
It could be the series, particularly if it goes long. We hope it doesn't, but if the series goes long, I think there is a chance. And so the first thing I think of when I think of no Feravari and no Protas is, wow, the PK, which has been good all year. That's two big pieces of that. That concerns me a little bit. Logan Thompson, I wouldn't bet my mortgage that he's going to be the starter tonight, but it just, based on what we observed today.
There are times where you may say, oh, he's the first one off, he's the guy, and in the playoffs, sometimes that doesn't matter.
There's gamesmanship, there's subterfuge, we don't really know. And, just to give fans out there, a glimpse behind the curtain, we go off into the room when it opens, and Logan Thompson wasn't there. His gear, there was nothing there. So that's a little weird. He was the first guy off the ice, which for this team, 100% of the time means that you're going to be the starter, but it's the playoffs now and you don't know. So I go over to Charlie, and I'm kind of joking with Charlie, how you feeling? How you doing? Good. Someone else comes over and goes, hey, safe to say you're going to be the backup? He goes, I don't know, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes LT is the first off, sometimes I'm the last off. I like a little extra work with a straight face, and now we're all like, well, crap. We don't really know.
This time of year, you got to be a detective, and even then, it doesn't always work out for you. But careful. We'll find out for sure, as Spencer said during the presser. We'll find out when he comes down the tunnel, 6:25, and coming out for warm-ups. We'll have a better idea then. Let's talk before we get to in a little bit here. Katie caught up with Connor McMichael here this morning. We've got that coming up in a bit, but I want to talk a little bit about Montreal. This team, Cole Caulfield, 3 goals in 3 games against the Capitals this season. Very good player. Already has proven early on in his career that he's a bit of a Caps killer. So you've got that going on. You've got the Ivan Demidov thing where he probably going to be on the third line. It's the 4th overall pick in the 24 draft, and he is very much an X factor of what's going to happen here.
That's the word that Carberry used, was X factor.
What does he bring?
Yes.
You have Slafkovsky, who has played well against the Capitals and even at Capital One Arena. His first multi-goal game was in D.C. There's a lot of guys. They have a lot of offense. And then Christian Dvorak, the Nick Dowd of the Montreal Canadiens, a shutdown line. They've got 4 lines that can score. And if they're playing in your end, and I saw this down the stretch. I watch this team a lot. When they're going, they're tough to stop. But there are times where they came out in a game against Detroit where they're playing at home and they're trying to take a step forward, knocking down a playoff spot or getting closer to one. They got outshot 23-4 in the first period. There's a lot of things that don't always go right for this team, too. And I think that's when they're looking at film and what's going on with this team, coming out in the first 10 minutes, and I know we keep saying the first 10 minutes, but establishing, hopefully getting a goal, but at least to say, look, you know what? You guys are in one and you're the second wild card for a reason. That's the mentality this team has to have tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. That said, momentum is a real thing, and the Habs have been really hot down the stretch. They're not the same team that put up those, average numbers the first few months of the season. They are more the reality is they are better since about February to now than their whole season average would indicate. A few SportLogic analytics for you, because I know you love those.
Oh, I know I do.
The Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky line since the Four Nations tournament. At 5-on-5, 24 goals to the good, 9 against. That's plus 15. That is the best in the entire National Hockey League. That's better than the Draisaitl line, the McDavid line, the Ovi line.
That is impressive.
That's the best line in the league since the Four Nations. And Demidov, really small sample size. He's only played 2 games since he's come over from Russia. But in that first game, when he had the goal and the primary assist, he also directed 9 pucks to the slot, which is the most of any Montreal player all year long. So I'm not saying he's going to come in and be their best player in the playoffs, but he is that rare guy who shows up the week before the playoffs, whether it's coming out of Russia or coming out of the NCAA, where he's not just going to be a support character. He actually can drive the bus a little bit. So he's another player that I think Caps fans should be a little concerned about.
This time last year, the Capitals were taking on the New York Rangers, and it was the first real taste of playoff hockey for Connor McMichael at the NHL level after coming off a Calder Cup the year before with Hershey. Big goal against the Rangers last year, looking to build on that success after what was a career season across the board for Mikey. Earlier today, he caught up with our Katie Florio.
Well, Connor, we are finally here at Game 1 of the playoffs, but I want to start with the regular season, specifically the career year that you had. Played all 82 games, 57 points. What allowed you to have the growth that you did all season?
Yeah, I think it honestly stemmed back to last year's playoffs. It obviously didn't go our way, and we were pretty upset about that. So I thought over the summer, just thinking about things and areas that I can improve my game, and I thought I did a good job of that. I came into the season with a lot of confidence, and I was able to build on that throughout the year. And I felt pretty good about my game throughout the whole year. And lucky enough, I was able to stay healthy, which allowed me to play 82 games, and that was something I was pretty proud of as well.
You mentioned playoffs. It was obviously short, but you score a goal. Just to have that experience in itself, what were some of those takeaways from last year's series against the Rangers that you guys can take into this postseason?
Yeah, we didn't play too many games, but for us, I mean, you just learn how to play playoff-style hockey. You learn that every puck that's on your stick, you got to make a strong player. Now that's the top 16 teams in the league. You got to make strong plays, or the puck's probably going to end up in the back of your net. So just little details and learning how to deal with momentum shifts when you're on the road, especially. It's pretty tough. So yeah, just the experience and dealing with the crowds is probably my biggest takeaway.
Going back to this year, there were so many games this season where you guys were down but never out, atop of the league, and come from behind wins. How can you take that mentality into hostile playoff environments that we're about to see?
Yeah, I think that's a great trait to have for our group. I mean, especially in the playoffs, things might not go your way in the first 5 minutes of the game, and with our group, we always have that belief that we can come back and win it. And yeah, I think that's going to be a huge component of playoffs. Is we're never out of games where it doesn't matter if they're up a couple and the building's loud. We're able to just get back to our game and stick with it, and just have that experience of knowing that we can come back.
Now looking ahead to Montreal, a team that is young, fast, a hostile environment there for what's going to be games 3 and 4. But what do you see out of this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. They got some really good players over there with a lot of skill, a lot of speed, and certainly going to Montreal is going to be a lot of fun in that build. And I remember when I was younger growing up just watching games in the Bell Center, and you see that atmosphere, especially in the playoffs. It's pretty electric. So I think we're all up to the task and looking forward to the challenge.
Well, after a very hard-fought season with a lot of success to with the Eastern Conference, a lot of, maybe pressure isn't the right word, but how do you sort of channel it in tonight, calm those nerves, and go out there and enjoy what's going to be Game 1 in front of a packed Capital One Arena?
100%. I think we all know we have a target on our back. We're one of the best teams in the East, so anytime teams play us, they want to prove that they can hang around with us and beat us. So it's going to be a fun test. We're all excited. I mean, we know that we can't be playing down to the level that they want us to play. We got to stick to our game and just control what we can control.
Well, certainly will be fun, Connor. Good luck, and thank you so much for your time as always.
Thank you.
See, when I think about the experience and pressure of the series, I think for Connor and for the rest of these guys last year that were getting their first real taste of the postseason, doing it at Madison Square Garden was a great experience. Yeah, it didn't go very well in terms of wins and losses, but it taught you how to elevate, what to be ready for, and what better stage to do that than the world's most famous arena, right? Yeah, but as you look forward now, too, Montreal's got to do that, and they've got the media pressure in their own town of, hey, are you guys going to win? This isn't going to be entirely fun for them and playing with house money. They're going to be like, hey, why did you guys lose 2 games in Washington? Like, it's going to...
But in French.
But, en français, si. Oui, how about that? Yeah, it's not Spanish, sorry. That's pretty good, though. That's going on the blooper reel at some point. This, for Washington, from an experience standpoint, for all of these guys, I really feel like they have a huge advantage in this series.
I definitely, when I look at intangibles, X factors, call it what you want. I feel like experience is one of those areas where the Capitals have a pretty significant advantage. I think there are a number of players on the Habs who were in the bubble in that lengthy playoff run they have, but that was the bubble. This is different. But, you talk about the players who gained that experience by playing at the Garden last year. Yeah, it didn't go that well, but just being there and seeing what it smells like and what it feels like, and the fact that the intensity is ramped up 10, 15, 20%, and just knowing what to expect this time, that's going to be huge for guys like Connor McMichael. I also think it's going to be big for Spencer Carberry, because coaching in the playoffs is against the same team game after game after game. I think that's why we're starting to see him tighten up a little bit with regard to the information. He was very free-flowing with the information last year. And I once had a coach tell me, if you can confuse the other team or make them think for an extra 10 minutes in practice, they don't know who's going to be the starter in net, or they don't know what that third line is going to look like. If they have to waste their time prepping for the unknown, you've won that little matchup right there for the day. And so that's why we're starting to not get the information that we were used to getting, and information that we got last year in the first round. Carberry has learned there, but that's not the only thing he's learned. I can guarantee you that's the front facing. That's what we see and we feel. There's probably 100 more things he learned from last year's playoff experience.
And as he gets going here against Martin St. Louis, who obviously a wonderful NHL player, but this is his first time coaching in the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. Let's talk a little bit before we go today on what has already transpired around the Stanley Cup playoffs, because this is night 3. We've had a couple of days to watch, and the Carolina Hurricanes, this just in, they're good.
They're good.
This also in New Jersey, they're not so much.
No.
They got blown out. If it wasn't for Jacob Markstrom yesterday, Carolina could have had 8 or 9 goals. Yep. New Jersey better find their game quick, or they're going to be out here in about 6 more days.
Yeah, and look, you can't start looking too far ahead. The Caps have to get past Montreal. That's a big mistake. That said, if Carolina rolls and does this in 4 games, and they have the advantage of getting all that rest.
Don't take 6 or 7 to get rid of Montreal.
Exactly. Again, I hate looking ahead, but I'm already looking ahead a little bit. You better make quick work of Montreal, because Carolina is going to do that to New Jersey. I mean, with the exception of that really sweet Nico Hischier goal, I mean, they didn't have much. They didn't have much at all. And around the league, John, I feel like for the most part, these first 2 days, it's been chalk. I mean, maybe the Avs-Dallas was a bit of an upset, but I don't know if I consider that an upset.
I think could be good. Colorado's a good team. I think that's probably a draw. They won on the road, so maybe slightly, but that's it.
But, overall, the better team won in all these. So hopefully the Capitals can keep with that pattern and get it done tonight in Game 1.
One other team real quick before we head off that I was really impressed with was Toronto, and scoring on a power play in the playoffs. Who knew? They never do that, but they did last night. They're doing a lot of things. They did a lot of things in that game that they don't normally do this time of year. I thought they looked really good. And again, from an Eastern Conference standpoint, we're not going to get Florida and Tampa Bay until tomorrow, which is crazy. That's all the way to Tuesday. They're going to be night 4 before they even get going. But at least it's on a night we can watch, so that's good. But that's another series as we start to look at what's going on in the Eastern Conference. Early returns only showing up. Not many precincts are reporting yet, but Carolina, my goodness. Toronto, my goodness.
I also like the Jets being able to stick with it. St. Louis had a late lead, right? It was 3-2 kind of late in the game, and the Jets just kind of stuck with it and eventually remembered who they were, which is the President Trophy winning team, and kind of pulled away there for what, you look at the scoreboard, kind of an easy win. I think that's, again, I don't want to look too far ahead, but I'm already thinking about Tampa and then Winnipeg. I mean,
you are thinking far ahead. Let's take care of Game 1 tonight, shall we? Last thought here from you before we go on what you want to see tonight.
I want to see them take advantage of those first 10 minutes. We've said this time and again. Look, you're at home. You have the last change. You got your crowd on your side. Montreal has a lot of players who are going to be like, oh my God, look at this. We are like, what are we doing here? This is fun, but I'm a little nervous. Take advantage of that. You have the experience edge. You're better in every category: offense, defense, special teams. I mean, there's no reason why you can't control those first 10 to 15 minutes. Get out of the first period with a lead. Again, start chipping away at that belief. Make Montreal go into that first intermission going, well, guys, the ride might be over.
So my final thought before we go is this. If you want to win the series, you've got to play it in the offensive end. And if you are playing in your own end in front of what we believe is Logan Thompson, but we'll find out for sure tonight, is if these forwards get going, they're going to make this a long series, and the longer it is, better chance Montreal has to win. If you want it done quick, play in the offensive end. And for a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois, I want Nick Suzuki to turn around and go, oh, look, it's you again.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of defense you're going to have. He's got to be able to be physical. So does Tom Wilson. Get that going in the first 10 minutes, and we'll see how it goes tonight. Every game in this best-of-7 series will be right here on Monumental Sports Network with Joe Beninati and Craig Laughlin. We will have our show on game day at noon for every game of this series. He is Tarik. I am John. For our crew, thanks for joining us on this edition of Rink Report, brought to you by PenFed Credit Union. Great rates for everyone.